I want to turn this block of aluminum into an iPhone.
Scotty Allen runs the StrangeParts YouTube channel, where he modifies iPhones to show that a culture of repairability and modification is possible. A few years ago, he added a headphone jack back to the iPhone 7. The other day, I talked to him about his new project where he reverse engineered an iPhone to make a custom enclosure out of a hunk of aluminum.
There's been an open question for me from the beginning, which is like, we have this culture around modding PCs, right? And custom PCs. Why do we not have that for phones, right? And going even further back, we have this huge culture in the US around modifying cars, right? And that's supported legally, and it's very celebrated in the culture. And then when you talk about like building your own phone, back when I did that, or adding the headphone jack, everybody's like, no, that's crazy. Like, Apple's gonna sue you, da 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 da. And it's like, well, why am I not allowed to do this with a phone? Or why do people think I'm not allowed to do this with a phone, but it's celebrated when I do it with a car? This actually goes way back to that headphone jack video when I added the headphone jack back to the iPhone. The biggest struggle in that was the mechanical portion, right? The electrical was like a challenge, but it was something that I kind of worked through. The mechanical, I just felt like I didn't like, and when I say mechanical, I mean fitting everything inside the phone, and specifically doing it without breaking anything.
And I'm worried they're colliding with each other. And so it does work. It comes pretty much flush at this point. But I'm worried that pressure is popping that connector off. The other option I was thinking about is if I can move this connector over far enough, then this actually can go on the bottom again. I'm not sure if that's gonna fly.
I really felt like I didn't have the right set of information and tools, because I couldn't see what was pressing on what inside the phone, right? It was all very opaque, right? And I was just buying, Apple-made enclosures and drilling holes in them, essentially. And so I didn't really have a lot of freedom in terms of what I modified, right? I couldn't make more room inside the phone other than just like carving things away. Couldn't change the actual shape of the design.
So, I mean, you said that this project was trying to faithfully recreate the iPhone case, but we talked about this culture of modifying PCs, of building your own PCs, etc. Obviously, people have built like really cool cases for their PCs. I'm wondering, do you think like phones have all looked the same for like many years now at this point? Do you think a different form factor is possible? Like a DIY different form factor is possible? And do you hope that happens? Yeah.
This is just the stepping stone. Like, I've been calling this an infrastructure project, which is, let's make a one-to-one copy. It's not totally one-to-one. I put my logo on the back, right? Like, I don't have the antenna lines, right? But in terms of overall geometry, it's a fairly faithful representation, right? Reproduction, with the goal that if you want to do interesting things, you need to start with the boring stuff first. So this is kind of the boring start. But if you have all of the design files that I've created, now you can really easily modify it to look however you want on the outside, to add more space for things on the inside. Like it's just a base for doing all sorts of more creative things.
I think on the repairability aspect, like, yes, people like Louis Rossmann and iFixit and others, the right to repair movement in general, have really, really crushed Apple's myth that you can't fix these things. But I remember when you put the headphone jack in the iPhone, like re-put the headphone jack in, I had never really thought about the idea of modifying an iPhone. And I think that the modification and sort of like building from scratch stuff that you've been able to do has opened my eyes, at least, in terms of what is possible with these things.
I mean, I think the notion that a phone is an approachable object that you can open up and you can tinker with, and not tinker with, that maybe that's too strong a statement, but at least repair, right? I think it's kind of run hand in hand with right to repair in general. But I think maybe I've had some hand in saying, look, this isn't, I'm going to pick up my everyday carry here. Like, this isn't a black box that only Apple is allowed to open.